Welcome back, friends, family, and neighbors. Are you comfy? Then let's get going. I was asked like a week ago when I posted my video on finding answers, generating ideas, I should say. I was asked about drive, and I was thinking of doing a motivation video next because that actually was perfect timing for putting them together. That's also something that I'm struggling with right now. It's not necessarily that I don't want to write or that I struggle to write, although it is that as well. As I had said in an update video a couple videos ago, it's something that I go through where if I don't get enough sleep, if stress is raising, if life is just not working on my schedule and everything, then it can go out of whack, and then my writing can go out of whack because I write Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. That's the way it's been for quite a few years, and that's the way I have found works for me right now. I used to, when I first began, I would write on the weekends for 8 hours, but having that space of like a week, it was a struggle to get my brain to get back into the story. And then I had for a time also done a bunch of different stories at once. And I would go like Monday this story, Tuesday that story, and then kind of go back and forth depending on which was less in word count. The one that was falling behind I'd do, and then I would piggyback the other one forward. And it was kind of difficult again to get back into the story, because I think that's the hardest part, is when losing drive and motivation can sometimes be from the story itself. Like you, right now in a place that I'm working with for the Sorceress World, it's a matter of where I'm at. It's starting to finally pick back up, but I knew point A, I knew point, we'll say C, but that point B, it wasn't that I didn't know it, it was that it was kind of a boring place for me to write because it was just a connect the dot scene. And a lot of people will say, if it's boring, don't write it. But for me, boring is a whole different thing. It can mean something slow, which is important to the story. But for my brain, I'm trying to teach it to slow down. That's why you often see me take deep breaths, trying to teach even my mind and my body to slow down. And so when I write something like that, it's different for me than someone else, because when they say it's boring, don't write it, it's not important to the story. For me, it's boring because it's a scene that is important to the story, but it might be a slower scene, like just a conversation, or it feels like to my brain that it's boring in some way. So that can cause me to struggle, and I start losing the motivation because it's like, come on, hurry up. And that's what for me can be a struggle in general, slowing down. But I'm learning in life in general, slow down, because I'm naturally high energy. Usually for me, it's about going quick. I don't want to go slow. I want to do this and this and this and just rush through it. So I can lose my drive and motivation just from things taking too long. And I can lose for writing, for working out, for just a lot of stuff. I struggle to have patience, and that can end up affecting the writing. So for drive and motivation, though, a lot of this obviously is going to be geared toward writers. It's going to be geared toward my writing, maybe ideas that can help you, but it also can be about life, because I'm a person that I don't usually find motivation or drive until after I'm doing it, until I'm in the midst of doing it. I don't, like with my working out, a lot of people, they have this idea that everything I do, it comes with, I have natural drive and I have natural motivation. I don't think they realize that I actually don't. I have a very lazy drive. I have a very lazy personality. As bubbly as I am, it's not something that comes natural to me. I get bored easy. That's where my drive, my motivation, my spark comes from. Boredom. But if I sit down and I have something that I can work on, like my book covers or a lot of the YouTube branding is getting redone now that I'm posting videos. When I do website design especially, I actually can sit there for hours, forget to eat, forget to even move, which is not good for you. And I get really, in that way, lazy because my mind is so consumed in the project that I have no reason to move. I forget. Time passes, and time does pass. It can be for crochet, it could be for knitting. There's a laziness to it that I can get sucked into. But it's also something that other people will look at and they'll think, oh, you just have natural drive and motivation and energy and this and that. And I seem to go back and forth. It depends on what it is. It depends on my passion for it. A lot of my natural bubbliness is just personality bubbliness. It's not for doing like projects unless I really love doing them. For cooking, I mean, people find it weird that I actually enjoy cleaning. I will boost up that radio if I'm by myself and I will clean anything. I'll do laundry, I'll do all that stuff. The stuff that I have drive and motivation for that's natural is actually more boring stuff for other people. It's not career motivation. It's not exercise motivation. Do I like to be on the move? Yes, but that's a lot to do with a lot of my motivation is built. It's trained. Can't think of another word. But it's not a natural motivation for stuff. So it's something that takes work for me, takes time to build up to, get used to. It's why I keep to a schedule, because that for me is how I get motivated, where the drive comes in. So me keeping a steady schedule, it's not just for my mental health, because I have severe mental health issues, but it's also that it helps me keep achieving stuff. A lot of people find that they use, I forget what it's called, but it became a big thing years ago, like a block method of time. You block out 15 minutes, I think, or something like that. For me, it depends on the task. 30 minutes to an hour is usually what my tasks take, or a few hours. Depends, again, on the task. So in the mornings, I wake up, and that's about the only time I usually watch TV, is just because my brain is not online, and I'm just trying to wake myself up and sit there and relax and have a little moment. And watching good programs or movies can help boost my creativity. So then I watch a little bit of TV while I wake up and eat my breakfast. Then I get going and I work out. And then my workout is before the writing, which I think boosts the ability to write. Then the writing and then the dogs. And I just keep to that schedule every day. Now, right now, as I said, I am facing a bit of lack of motivation and drive to write and stuff. And a lot of that I can actually be not necessarily from outside sources. Like I said, it could be the writing that is something that's just, it's holding me back. It's sluggish. It's boring. Those are the times that I will literally write anything down. Some have suggested you straight out just write something interesting happens here. Some have suggested you just write such and such character walked down the street, went to the store, whatever, fits your story. And that can be a huge help too. I usually end up with a lot of notes in my writing. They will be right in the midst of the sentence. I will write note with brackets around it. And I will write note, whatever I need. Say, insert more details for the scene. Insert background details. Make sure the details are correct. Something so that where I stall with my writing, I keep going. That way, I'll come back to that later in edits. Because usually with edits, it's important just to get the story down so that in edits, you actually can come back with a fresh mind and fresh thoughts and chisel out what you really needed for that scene or for that story. So I have a lot of notes often in my work. I will even put notes for later on when the editor looks at it. So sometimes it could be the writing causing that sluggish, like pause and hiccup and just, you know that's going to be a tough scene. You know that's going to be a slow scene. You know something's going to be happening, but you don't know what it is. So that can cause you to want to just, you start losing motivation and the drive isn't as strong. Other things that can cause me to lose drive is actually what this question was around. And that is basically criticism that touches you too deeply. Because as I have made very clear, I don't have thick skin for everything. Far too many people will push the idea you need a thick skin to make it at writing. They push the idea that unless you have thick skin, you are going to fail. Unless you have thick skin, on and on. I say unless you have resilience, you're probably going to end up failing. Because it's not about not letting things get to you. It's about allowing yourself to feel. When you put yourself into your writing, it's going to hurt if somebody criticizes it a certain way. Because that is personal to you. You are in your work. Your work is essentially you. But at the same time, there are plenty of things that will not get to me. You can call me names all day long, and usually not going to faze me. I have been called thousands of different names. Lots of common stuff. People, when they want to insult women, there's usually defaults. Horse face. The B word. I'm not going to go into a lot of them because YouTube might get me in trouble. But you guys have seen it. You know it. If you're a woman, you've experienced it. If you're a man, you've probably experienced it. People go to default names. People will say you suck. People will say you don't know what you're doing. People will say you need an editor. If you go on some of these professional books who have been in the business for over 20, 30 years, you're going to get people criticizing their grammar, criticizing that they don't have an editor, criticizing they need a better editor, criticizing a book when they haven't even read the book, criticizing a book for delivery issues from the retailer that has nothing to do with the author, they'll still put those reviews on the book when that's for other people. It's why I don't usually go read reviews, because reviews are for other people. It's not for me. If someone wants to criticize my work and criticize me, emails all over the place. Contact info is on my website. They're welcome to. It doesn't matter. It matters, but it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Is it going to matter 10 years from now that somebody says your work is total icky stuff? Is it going to matter that somebody says that you look like a troll, that you are the ugliest person alive, that you sound like a turd? Anything? No, it's not. But if you can get over that and keep going, resilience is what really matters. Resilience is what keeps you working. Resilience is what gets you up off the floor after you've heard a lot of either criticisms on your work, criticisms on you, and it keeps you going forward. That's what helps you to overcome struggles that keep you from finding the drive to work and the motivation and the want of it. As I said, the motivation for me usually only comes once I'm doing something. I don't typically have a natural drive to pursue a lot of stuff. I am a very reserved by nature person and can be downright shy. Like this for me, having attention on me can incite super shy person, and I want to go back in my little shell and hide. A lot of it, of course, I have mentioned that Will has been helping me with. A lot of it is I only focus on who's watching it, not everybody's watching it. So it helps me overcome those obstacles within. Same with the drive and the motivation. If somebody criticizes us or criticizes our work while they support us, a friend of mine actually just posted on Facebook. I told her I actually know exactly what you're talking about. The people who say they support you by instantly cutting down your ideas. You'll get super excited over something and you will go to your friends and your family and whoever else, and the very first thing out of their mouth is, why would you do that? I mean, I wouldn't do that, but okay, I guess that's okay. I guess that's great. The first thing that they say is basically something that just cuts you like a knife, takes away all your joy. They make it seem like you have zero idea what you're doing. Make it seem like you are a child who hasn't considered that you might actually fail, hasn't considered anything, but their first remarks are to cut the idea apart. And when you get stuff like that, that can be crushing. That can take everything out of you. Takes the wind out of your sails. You're all excited. You're like, okay, I have figured out what I can do. This is what I can do. And they're like, I mean, it's probably not going to work, but sure, try it out. Okay, great. Thanks for the support you gave me. That's appreciated. It's going to make me just want to keep going. And it can be very crushing. So when people offer their support on your work and they think they're being supportive, maybe they're coming from a good place, maybe they're not, maybe they have their own issues, maybe they're projecting onto you. We never know. We just know how we feel when somebody just completely crushes that idea, completely shuts it down before we've even finished talking about it. And a lot of the time, we can internalize that. And it can be very difficult to find the motivation to keep going, to find the drive inside of us to want to pursue that still. And that can be extremely hard if you are a writer and you already have all those thoughts inside of your head, that's what a lot of these people online, when they criticize others, they don't realize, one, we're not the only person who has that opinion. That opinion has been shared probably quite a lot. Two, this is the first place that opinion has been shared. I am a master at cutting apart my ideas. I am a queen at freaking telling myself all the bad that will come of stuff I do, at cutting myself down, at criticizing everything that I think might work, at not finding the good stuff. I can't think of how to phrase it. Everything that somebody thinks they can say that's a negative, most of us already have heard it or said it to ourselves. We don't need other people telling us that idea is not a good idea, that it's not going to work, that, oh, okay, well, the best help that people can give, instead of just cutting those people down, maybe they'd like an idea to help, is just ask questions. I said it in my last video. Ask questions. Have you considered this? Have you considered that? You don't need to just slice and dice all the happiness, because then it just demotivates people. It takes away their love of something, takes away the passion for it. It dampens the passion, I should say, because with a writer, the one reliable thing, I think, that most writers might be able to agree on, if you do, feel free to tell me in the comments, is that passion, if you're a writer, doesn't tend to go away. So it's why the best help you can give to somebody is just to ask questions if you want to ensure they're doing the right thing for themselves. But you also want to make sure that the first response you're giving somebody is not a cut remark. It's not cutting down their idea. It's not make sure you knock them off that pedestal. Don't want you getting no big head. Jeesh, sure thinks yourself special. I gotta knock you down a peg or two. I've dealt with that one quite a lot online. I have a natural vibe about me, I guess, that people always have this, I need to knock that girl down. Well, newsflash. If you actually knew me the way one particular man does right now, you would find out I don't sit myself on a pedestal. I certainly don't look at myself in the mirror and go, well, I am pretty darn special. Everybody needs to bow to me. So the thing is, when you want to support somebody. Then later on, maybe address the issues, the potential downfalls. Ask them if they want to address that. Ask them if they're open to critiques. Because in the beginning stages, especially with writers, we can be hypersensitive. For me personally, I usually don't mind now people criticizing or critiquing work or me because I'm used to it. I have grown up with those kind of people in my life. Always, I think 90% of the time, when I have been excited over something, the idea was instantly cut down. Maybe even 95%. I have not had instant support like other people get for a lot of stuff. That's why when somebody does give me support, I value it quite a lot. And I know what it means to not have that. So I am grateful when I find somebody who knows properly how to support me and properly how to support other people even. But when we get criticized, when somebody, they either cut down the work or cut down us, or we're just in a depressed state, sad state, upset state, etc., etc., it can completely destroy our drive to write, to create, to do pretty much anything. But especially with creativity, we need that little like burning fire under us. So I have found that the ways that I can get that back is sometimes just to allow that demotivation to happen. Sometimes just not to have that drive. Just let it happen. Because that's how I deal with a lot of my more down days and bad days. I try to just let it happen. I'm getting to the point where I am learning that I have someone I can lean on and who is not going to be like, oh no, icky feelings, go away. And who I can go to when I need help. So that is the stuff that I'm working on learning. But when I feel that negative stuff come up, a lot of the time I just allow it to happen. Same with when I don't feel like writing. When I don't feel the story. One of the things, I have a little note here to keep track of what I am wanting to cover, but something I just thought of that I didn't mention or write down to mention. This world that I'm working on right now, the Sorceress World. I wrote that book, the world. I wrote that, I think I was in my 20s. If I go grab it, I can tell, but I don't want to do that. I'll just say it was in my 20s. It was one of the first things that I ever wrote and finished. That was the work that I actually wrote when I had read Carrie Arthur's Riley Jensen series, and I was like, hey, I could probably do this. I had read a lot of work, but that was the series that for me, I was like, I bet I could do this. That was my author and my writing. If you had one, tell me in the comments, because that's always fascinating. What book and author triggered that in us? That's why when somebody says I did it, I'm like, oh, I did. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. But my Sorceress World, when I first wrote it, was just horrible. Ain't even lying. Just horrible. So when I kept trying to rewrite, or edit it, I should say, I was looking at it like, okay, most of this story is red, and it's not really that good. And at the end, baby Kim Ryder decided that she would just completely get tired of it and break a writing rule and just, ta-da, look at how special she became. Don't do that kind of stuff. Don't shortcut just because you got bored. But I had written, like, it was the 5th book, and baby Kim was tired of writing it, so she just, ta-da! No logical explanation for what happened. I'm not going to say what happened because it's getting rewritten. But when I wrote that story in that world, I had set it aside because I was like, okay, this needs to be reworked desperately. So I'm going to set it aside, come back to it in a few years, figure it out. A few years turned into a few more. Turned into a few more. putting it off. Kept going, I don't want to touch it no more. And I lacked any motivation to touch it. There was that tiny little part deep down inside of me that really wanted to, but it was like a tiny little spark. It was a little, tiny little ember that was about to go poof. I just was bored of it. I was like, this could be my big world. Because the Dark Moon Dynasty universe was my big world. It is over 1 million words. The Guardian of Life world is becoming a big world. But I mean big, like a lot of people might connect to this world. It might be that one that pushes me out, that people pick up and they just really like it. Because the Dark Illusions series was one of those. People just really liked it. They kept picking it up. Same with that entire world and the Guardian of Life world. And I appreciate you very much if you were one of those people that not just bought it, but read it, enjoyed it, all of it. Because that is the real thing for me, is when people also connect to my work. The people like you watching this video, that you enjoy this video. When you say you watch my videos, when you say you like them, when you say you like my writing, any of that stuff, that is a massive compliment. That's when I get my shy, reserved side and I'm just like, thank you. And then I move on, because otherwise I'm like, it's other people, that's better. It's fine. But with that world, I pretty much lost interest in it. There was there, but it was not. And I now realize that sometimes we're just not ready for a certain writing, world, anything. So ensure that if you are finding, if I wiggle, it's because I'm trying to lift one foot and lift the other because my legs get really stiff standing in place for too long. Because I'm standing up right now. But realize that it could be the work itself. Not work as in writing. It could be the book. It could be something that deep down you have a sense that it might be a big deal to people. And that's holding you back. Because I don't know why I have that feeling with that one. I just naturally will feel sometimes that something will touch somebody more. I don't know how. I don't know when. I don't know who. I don't know if it's just going to be one person that makes a difference or a ton of people. It's just I've always had an inner instinct for that one particular world. So I think that kind of held me back. Because it was like, I'm not ready for it. So it could be something like that. But it could be that you're just not ready for it as a writer. Because you could write it, you could edit it, and you're still not there yet. You haven't grown enough to touch that project again. So it could just require time. It could require you just to take a break, give it a few years, few months, few years, few decades. I think that's something that George R.R. Martin is facing with his last book. He's got so many people who have an entitled attitude demanding the work. He has invested so much work into those books and the TV. Were there movies? Certainly I can't remember. But so much into that world. The graphic novels, I should say. He's put so much into that last one is like either part of him senses it's going to be the final one and it's holding him back, or he's just tired. or he's not ready to tackle it. It's why I have a lot of sympathy for him as a writer. Dealing with all that stuff, part of me is vindictive. Like, you don't own me as a writer just because you buy my work. That's the kind of stuff that just makes me, it's like an abuse thing. I hate it. And I always want to just be like, part of me just doesn't want him to publish that book to prove to these people, you don't own him. But that's because I get vindictive and pissy and I'm a fire sign. Moving on. So sometimes it could just be that you're not actually ready for that work. But it also could be that brain shut. But it could just be a lot of internal mental stuff going on. It could be a lack of motivation for passion, for love of the writing. So I end up going back to thinking of what I do love about either the work itself, like that particular story, why I wanted to work on it, why I wanted to write it, or think about the love of the writing itself. Why does it make me feel good? Why do I enjoy it so much? You could write it down, but I'm not one of those who tends to write a lot of stuff down. But it could be any reason. I just think about it. I think too much about everything. And that could sometimes get that little gears going again. Sometimes I will read the particular work that I'm struggling with. Like if I were struggling too much with the second book for the Sorceress World, I might go back to the beginning of the book and then read it. Because sometimes it's the story kind of dies out in my heart and my brain, and I will just be like, it's boring, I'm tired. That's also a huge thing, is if you're tired a lot, that's not going to help you out with your writing. But I might reread what I've done or other work I've done to find that it's not necessarily finding the drive and motivation as much as I recently had reread a lot of my books, which is why I reread Honora, only to go, okay, I see why a lot of people liked it. It's not actually as bad as I felt. Like with, what book was that? I want to say it was Discovery of an Enchantress, which is the second book in the last series of Dark Moon Dynasty Universe. That's the fourth series, Eternal Souls Universe series. When I had written that book, I legit felt like all they did was sit on a couch and talk. I had thought they were doing nothing but chit-chatting. The two women, Mila and Kat. And I was like, this is going to be a stupid thing. I'm going to have to work on it a lot. In edits, I was like, okay, they are not actually sitting on the couch talking the whole time. My brain had remembered that because it was kind of boring and I was over it. But when I went back to edit it and I had to reread it, I realized, hey, this is actually not a bad story. I'm enjoying this story. And I rediscovered my enjoyment of that story. So sometimes when you just go back and reread something, your mind has already had this is what it is about, this is what they do. But then you reread it and you find out your memory is a dodo. It's a total idiot who remembers everything wrong sometimes. And rereading a work will help me to want to get back into it. either writing or that work itself, which is why sometimes I will reread that book, sometimes reread any book. Oftentimes, just rereading my work is all that it takes. Because then I remember the excitement that I had writing the work. I remember the excitement of writing in general. And when I reread something, it's almost like I'm re-injecting myself with the feelings that I had while I was doing it. Now, another method that I use is that I will save comments, letters, notes from people who have enjoyed my work. And I will purposely keep them in something where I can go back to sometimes and look them over again. Because reading that positive feedback can remind me that I'm not as horrible of a writer as I think. I giggle because I basically think of myself as a terrible writer 24/7. That's why I made it very clear in my little about section, I am not an expert. Jeannie gets on to me about this, my editor, because I've written and published over 50 stories. Some I have pulled, so if you go looking and start going 1, 2, 3, 4, I've pulled some because the theme of the book and the writing I did not want in my little brand bubble that I have right now up. They will probably get edited and put out under the other name later on because it'll be a new name technically, and a lot of people discovering it will be a little more forgiving of work. Also because it might have alternative stuff that's not usually under my name, or I'll put it under yet another name strictly for more risque work that nobody will be told about except just the closest to me. But, well, that depends actually. I probably would tell people eventually because I am not a big liar, but, and I'm too open not to eventually be like, so this is what I wrote also. I can keep secrets. I keep important stuff secret. But that can help me also, is to read notes that people have given me. Because despite my editor telling me I am now a professional after writing and publishing 50 stories, I might say that once I hit like 100, 1,000, 10,000. Maybe when I'm on my deathbed I'll be like, I think I'm a professional writer now. I think people can always learn. That was just my shirt I was adjusting in case you're curious what the popping sound was. I just realized what it could sound like. Maybe it was. But I just think you can always be learning. That's why I don't like to go too professional inside, do the air quotes. But sometimes it can just help me to reread notes that people have given me, because it kind of boosts your spirit. It reminds you of why you do it, why you enjoyed it. You can ask people even if they'd read a sample and you need the booster. I mean, just ask. I imagine some people would be more than happy to just read a sample of work just to boost your ego. I don't think there's something wrong with asking for that. I am starting to learn just to ask for the dumbest things that I might need. If I need a confidence boost, you better believe I'm going to ask Will or Jeannie, can you just boost my confidence right now? Because I could use it. Or if I am not having a good day, I'm just going to go and cry on one of their shoulders, most likely will. Just ask for what you need. If you are feeling like you are a terrible writer and you need that boost, ask for it. That is way better than wallowing in misery and not feeling good. So if you don't have those notes to go back and read, I mean, I'm not drowning in that kind of stuff. I think more assume or presume that people will contact writers like crazy. Not all of us get that kind of fan mail. And it's not just me. I know that other authors, they rarely hear from readers these days either. But if you are a reader, trust me, you could never give too much praise to your favorite author or writer or anybody, really. We all could use an overabundance of praise and support and comments and likes and messages. Don't presume that people are drowning in fan mail and in attention, because a lot of people have been under the impression that I am constantly inundated with messages and with all kinds of stuff. I even had a reporter contact me for something she had seen me share on my new Twitter, and she thought that she was bugging me. I'm like looking at my inbox going, unless you are taking me away from a lot of the sales emails that people send me through my website, not really, because I keep getting those marketing people through my website, and it's way more than reader mail. So I think that if you need that kind of stuff to boost that ego and to help you find that happiness, all you have to do is ask somebody. Just put it on your Twitter, on your website, on your Facebook. We are going to go into that you do need a website. Even if it's a free, looks terrible one, get a website. That way, you have a home that's not Facebook or Twitter online, because that for me is my home. Online is my website usually. But if you need that, just ask for it. That's way better than drowning in not having it and drowning yourself in misery. Another way that often I will help myself get it back is switching away from that work. I kind of went into this when I was talking about the sorceress stuff. But if you, I feel like I got hair all over me. But if it's almost like a boredom thing that you're dealing with, sometimes what can help is a new project. Because like I said, with the sorceress world, unless you're under a contract and you need to finish that project. Feel hair. I'm trying to do laundry today, so I got hair all over me. But unless you are under a contract and you need to finish only that project, or like me, you're a very strict weirdo and you want to finish just that project, oftentimes what you can do is switch it. Because maybe you just need that refresher of something new. Maybe that one has compiled into a big stinky icky pile in your brain, and you've put so much pressure on yourself to finish it and so much around it that it's taken away all your interest in continuing it and working on it. Maybe you just need a break from it. Just like when you're writing, will end up having issues and you need to like take a break and go for a walk or get away from it or pause before editing it. Sometimes that can happen with work. Like I had said, I kind of went into it with the sorceress world, is you just need something new. Sometimes it's because you are overworking it and overworking yourself to the point of collapse. All the drive, all the interest, all the motivation, everything in you that wants to finish it, wants to work on it, wants to give your attention to it, has now compiled in this big lump of just tons of thoughts, tons of ideas, tons of comments, tons of voices, tons of everything in your mind, so it's gonna like explode. So that's when a new project is in order. You don't have to finish that project. You don't have to write that project. You don't have to ever have plans for the project. It can just be either a new writing project or a new project in life, like something to build, something, whatever. Oftentimes, though, for me, it's why I have a story that I am writing right now that is the Sorcerer's World Book 2, the Laura and the Old Mage. That is why I have an editing project, Sophia and Fieger of Annalanius Omega 3. That is why I have a project that I am working on outside of the writing, which is like this YouTube stuff and my website I'm always piddling with and everything else up there. It is why I have stories where I am going to be rewriting the Hope of the Future book, because when I reread it, I was like, I need to get a lot of this information sorted and connect it to the world it's in, because it's not, I had never planned to connect it to the Guardian of Life. It was going to be a singular book, but then when I kept going with the Guardian of Life world, I was like, oh, okay, this connects to it. So I have a outline that I'm working for that. And for the record, anybody who ends up buying that will get a free updated copy. If you sign up for the newsletter, you'll get all the information for that. The newsletter will be universal. No matter what I write, that's going to be the only newsletter. I also have, like I mentioned in the previous, look, I'm pointing over there like the previous ones are over there, but the previous video on author answers for generating story ideas, I had mentioned the dream idea I had that I still haven't written down, and I really gotta write it down. I even had another one last night. It was like a vampire thing. I keep having very interesting dreams lately. But I have that full notebook. It's a binder of ideas that I'm always writing down. But I also have another binder where I have one with story ideas. It's literally just the dream written down. And then I have another one that's kind of like a progression forward of those story ideas, the ones that really, I almost feel like I want to be the next project I write. I will detail those out. I will start writing out questions. I will start developing it more. And that's in that next book. So I always have something for my brain to be working on. I shouldn't say never, that's an absolute. I hate using absolutes now because I'm my own critic going, that's not accurate, because never is never, ever, ever. And that's not true. So I hate, that drives me nuts when people use absolutes, or even I do it. Because I always want to be, that's an absolute. And that's clearly a lie. So understand, if I use one of those absolutes, like everything, all, never, always, those things are absolutes. It's across the board. Technically, I already know I'm lying. I'm a conundrum to myself, so beware that sometimes my advice will change from day to day, depending on what I learn, how I grow, if I'm change something, because I'm open to new ideas, so my stuff will often change. My core values don't tend to change. Like if you're a bully, you and I aren't going to get along, because I've been bullied, and I've also stood up to bullies. I've stood up to men, like 2 or 3 times my size, drunk off their butt, wanting to abuse their daughter, and I put myself between them and the daughter and dared them to get through me to that daughter. Bullies don't bother me. Well, I mean, they bother me because you bully me enough, yeah, you'll get me to cry. Ooh, big whoopie-doo. I cry even if Will is super sweet to me. Or if Kona's being snuggy and squishy and I think about how much I love him, I'll start crying. Not really special in getting me to cry. Just a meanie. But that's why a lot of the time I do like to switch stuff up. I do like to constantly have tons of different projects. So maybe the issue could end up being that you just have a lot of junk up here and you need to get rid of a lot of junk up here. Either criticisms that people have given you, your own criticisms, that's for me usually just as bad as other criticisms. It could be, I need to do this, I need to do that, and I need to do this, and blah, 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 blah. It could be your fears of the story not being that good, how the story will turn out, whether people like the story. And here is something that everybody should hear. There's always going to be one person out there who hates your story. Hates you. Hates you with a passion just because you look the way you do, talk the way you do, act the way you do, write the way you do. It could have nothing to do with your work. It could have everything to do with your work. There's always going to be at least one person who fits every single one of those. They're going to hate you. They're going to hate your work. They're going to make it a mission to take you down. Use your work as the example of what not to do. They don't matter. They only matter to those people who want to listen to them, relate to them. But at the end of the day, they also could be a huge marketer for you. Because their hate for you will make somebody else go, why do they hate them so much? Let me check out this work. You might get a sale. You might lose a sale. It only matters to keep going. Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Resilience. Just get your little tookie off the floor. Just keep going forward. Even if you are crying your tookies off. I have written and I have published work like with hope of the future. When I was getting that ready for sale, I had my parakeet sitting in my hand, sitting in my lap, and that was her last day. So, no matter what you feel, just keep going, because I have used my work to get through a lot of deaths for the pets, a lot of sicknesses for the pets, for family, for friends. I have just focused my effort on the work, and I have used it as my bridge to keep going, because it's not important what people say about you. It's only important what you keep doing because of it. So just as much as another person absolutely hates you, hates your work, hates your voice, hates writing voice instance. For me, it could be my speaking voice. I mean, I don't even like listening to myself talk, so. But they could absolutely love your writing voice. They could love your writing, your work, the way you express yourself. There could be somebody sitting at home right now. When you publish that work, this isn't talking about getting it edited and all that stuff. This is just, common sense writing, editing, publishing, etc. There could be somebody sitting at home right now who, when you publish that book, they come across it and it changes their life. Because it's the book that either makes them want to work, makes them want to do the writing themselves, makes them realize something about themselves, makes them want to share it with another person, makes them find a reason to smile, makes them want to keep going. Maybe it's just a book that gets them into reading. There could be somebody, a group of people who love your work, love your writing, love everything about you. Those are the ones that you want to do it for as much as the people who will not like it. Because at least you're trying. And all any of us can do is really just try. Sometimes you find the drive and the motivation by just sitting down and simply writing, simply editing, reading the work, and then just doing it. You don't necessarily have to feel the drive to do it or the motivation to do it. I had said to this commenter that I'm struggling with that right now, and I have mentioned that in this video because I look like me about to throw up. Sleepy girl. But I have had that with the sorceress stuff, and I said it, a lot of it is just that getting the scenes connected. But how do I personally work the best with getting that drive to write? Between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. Even if, something happens and I have to do it at 10:30 to 11 or 10:30 to 11:30, or I only get a few hundred words or a few words. What I do is I sit down, get my laptop out, I open up the manuscript, and I just start typing. I reread maybe a chapter behind. I don't try to edit too much. If I catch something, I might, fix it. But I don't purposely go in to zero in on editing, because I'm not editing, I'm writing. So I will go in, I'll sit down, I'll reread the stuff to reconnect myself with where I left off. Or I'll go back into the outline that I wrote up, which is just, it's like a bullet point list. If you're interested in that, I'd be happy to share it. I don't really care too much about sharing a lot of that stuff. I would keep it to a minimum just so that, like right now I'm not done with this story, so it might change. I don't want other people to get the whole story. But I'd share some of it on my blog if you wanted me to, so you could see what it actually does look like. Even share like a chapter or two off of it so you could see what the bullet point list looks like and then what I write. But then once I read all that stuff and I reconnect myself to the story, I simply just start writing. It might be that I write some really horrible stuff I change later, stuff that I think is total icky, stuff that I don't like. Might be great, might actually be the story, might not be the story. But the important thing is to get it down. And I use that same method for editing, for outlining, for publishing, for anything. I simply put it into my schedule. I stick to my schedule. I make as much as possible. I do not change my schedule. But again, as I've made clear, for me, a lot of it is because up there gets icky. That's why I don't like people who push the idea of don't overwork, don't work, work is bad, work is evil. For some of us, we need that structure. We need that stability of work. We need that schedule. We need that focus. Some of us, it does work for. Some of us do know how to put the boundaries up and pull back. Some of us just overwork and then we pull back, but it's a system that, again, that works for us. For me, I will, because I love my work. I will overwork, and then I will take a break, and then I come back, and my editor has even noticed the same thing I started to notice. I actually get better with each time that happens. It's interesting how it happens. It's like I take that break after I've overworked myself, and when I come back, it's like I'm a fresh new writer. And I do it with anything. So it's not important for me as much to try to feel like writing, to try to feel like working, to try to want it. I simply make a schedule, then I sit down and I do whatever it is. Even if it bores me, even if I pick at it, even if I barely feel like I'm making a difference or doing anything, because there's always that period that, like with working out, that's actually why I had said when I began this, I said the motivation can work with anything, is because I used to be severely overweight when I was 18. It was depression, it was a lot of stuff going on, and the weight just piled on. And I didn't usually have the motivation and drive to work out. For those of you who do, yay! I really think you're awesome. I'd love to have that. But for me, I don't have it. I just do it. I just say I'm going to do it and I do it. And that's the same thing with the writing. It's the same philosophy that I've used with working out and losing weight. Like with right now, my body is in a lot more pain, especially thanks to winter. So I try to make it a priority to do yoga. So every day at around 9:30 or so, I try to do yoga. However long I can manage it, however my body will work with me, because the backs of my thighs are just incredibly painful lately. I have a lot of body pain that I deal with daily. And so I may not be able to do the full workout that I do. What I do is like a sun salutation that I just adjusted some poses with, and I just hold the position for a certain number of breaths. So it's not some big fancy thing I'm doing. And it works for me. It helps manage also a lot of the more like anxious kind of stuff that happens in the body. It's not a foolproof way, but it helps. So I do it. I know the benefits of it. I know why I do it. And I don't really think about all that stuff. I just go, I need to do yoga today at 9:30. Oh, it's 9:30, I can do yoga. I do yoga. Done. Same with the writing. Between 10 and 11 a.m. Every day I'm like, except Saturday and Sunday, I'm like, I need to write. So I sit down and I just write. Whether it's crappy, whether it's anything. When I need to edit, I sit down. That one, It depends on the edits. If it's in paper edits, I do it whenever I can, however I can. But usually that's in the morning or at night or on the weekends. When it's the actual edit for the book in edits, that one is usually, man, I got the burpees, excuse me. When I'm doing the edits for work that's in official edits, like the So Freer one right now, then I sit down between about 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock and I do the work. That is mainly how I handle it personally, because I know eventually that blech feeling will go away, get replaced by a little more excitement and being able to do it steadily. Sometimes I'm just going to keep working through not feeling good, not mentally, is what I mean. And I just keep working at it. I just keep, I don't want to say pushing through, because that's not actually what it is. It's not pushing through as a negative kind of thing. It's just knowing that it's like weather. You get past your rainy days, you'll get a sunny day. Sometimes it'll be a foggy day. And if you wait long enough, the sun will come back out. Suddenly I want to burst into song like Annie. I'm not going to do that. Fair warning, as I get more comfortable, you might find me doing it and I don't even think about it. I sing to the dogs a lot too without thinking about it. But it's just like any other phase of the weather, of your cycle inside your body, of your workout cycle where you'll hit a plateau and keep going and eventually you start losing weight again. It's just a normal part of the process to lose interest, to demotivate, to lose the passion, to lose drive, to allow stuff to get in there to add to that. So it's not, I don't want to say it's not your fault, because obviously it's our fault if something's inside of our brain and we're not controlling it and, getting a handle on it and stuff. But it's not your fault, as in it's just a natural part of the process. I think far too many people punish themselves these days if they are not perfect. That's why I'm not going to try to be perfect all the time on these videos. Yes, I constantly am editing myself and fixing stuff I say like I forget to say, or I say it different than I want to. Like my brain is saying, say sunshine, but then the mouth is like rain. And I'm like, that's not the word. This is my weird self. Welcome. But I do have that issue, and you will see it in these videos. You will see it as I edit myself to edit myself to edit myself. You'll see it when I type in the little stuff. You'll see it when I type in the stuff in the description box. You'll see it that I'm constantly critiquing myself and almost trying to get perfect. But at the same time, we are not perfect. And I am fully aware of this. I'm fully aware that I am completely ridiculous when I do that. I am fully aware of all that stuff that trolls and people can critique. I live with 2 people who critique me and troll me daily. I already know all of that. But we don't need to add it to ourselves and to our work. You're not necessarily going to find this magical substance called motivation and drive if you are not one person who has that. And that is okay. It's okay to have that natural drive and motivation. It's okay to be you, to be how you are, to process how you are, to think how you do. Too many people have determined what normal is. See my air quotes? It's not actually normal. It's just a majority right now are like that. And then they think everybody else has to be like that. We see it on Twitter. I vote for this person. If you do not vote for this person, you are trash. I live in this state. If you live over there in that area, you're a terrible person. It's on and on. Groupthink. It's detrimental. Because then when you're on the outside of whatever that group is or whatever that is, then you're looking in there going, well, they're doing it. Why can't I do it? They can get that motivation to work out. Why am I struggling? Why am I the problem? Why am I failing? I am such a failure. I shouldn't even do this. I shouldn't be doing this. Why am I doing this? There's no magical formula to find the lucky charms of motivation and drive. There are little things you can do, and hopefully some of the ideas that I gave helped you. And I say this even for myself, because a lot of these videos, when I post these videos, are helping me as much as you. Your comments help me as much as my words to you. As I teach you and I help you, you help me. And I learn from you. We're learning from each other. It's why I want this to always be such an open back and forth exchange. And why I will not allow people to be rude or to critique grammar. If that is one of the biggest things that I get onto people for. If somebody tries to harass based on grammar, they will see the full force of my attitude instantly come at them. Same with being bullied. Same with being rude. Sometimes they luck out and I'm too bored. I'm too tired. I'm just not having it. And I'll just delete or block. Or both. But if you ever want to see my attitude hit someone full force and the redhead to come out, let them harass based on grammar. Or let them be mean just to be mean. Let them bully in any way just to bully. Because a lot of the time I can handle people doing it to me. Depends on mood again. But there are those times when other people do it. I've had far too many think, because I'm a writer, that their grammar needs to be just as perfect. And then they end up holding themselves back from commenting, from engaging, from participating. And it's like, don't. None of us are perfect. I had horrible grammar before I started to write. Then I learned and I got better. I engaged with people who had good grammar. I absorbed it. We just don't need a lot of that stuff in our brain, because that is what demotivates us. And I hope some of what I have discussed has given you ideas or helped you. This might be a longer video because the dogs are getting antsy and I have to, yay, more laundry. I always have laundry I'm working on in these videos. Because it's never ending when you have a lot of dogs. It's never ending. It's like it's always there. It's like a monster. But if you have any ideas for, or what works for you to help you find your motivation to write, to publish the work, anything around writing or working out, that's usually a theme in my world, is discussing exercise too, because it's all part of keeping the mental health in a good place. If you have any of those thoughts, feel free to leave them in the comments so that other people can learn from yours. If my methods don't help them, or they don't connect with my ideas and it doesn't spur them ideas, then you might be able to help them. And I would love for you to leave a comment about that. Leave a comment if you just enjoyed this video. leave a comment just to say hi. Leave a comment to help boost the engagement on this video so that YouTube is like, okay, this person should be seen more. A lot of people might like this person. You can say you hate me. You probably wouldn't. There are some people that I'm not gonna boot just because they're like, I'm gonna be rude to be rude, and then I'm just gonna leave you there for a while so that people can see what it's like and the kind of stuff I don't like dealing with. Not necessarily just for me, but it's an atmosphere. For me, I think about the whole community around me. That's why I was telling Will the other day. I was trying to remember if I actually told him that I'm careful with my language on these videos. I've always been careful about what I share on my social media, of what kids can see on accident if they log into a parent's account, or if a parent is listening or watching this stuff and then they have their child there. I don't hold back too much, because obviously I'm not responsible for a parent or their child or anyone else, but I like to try to just allow it to be a community around me that is an open and safe place people can be open with, and not worry that they're just going to be attacked and like people are just going to and be ridiculous. I think about the community. So if you have something that can benefit people, then please comment. Let them know your ideas. Comment as long as you need. You do not have to worry about, ooh, this is too long a comment. I'm a writer. Hello. It's very hard for me sometimes to even compress my own thoughts. And I actually do that quite a lot. Is compress my thoughts. But it's also very hard. So don't be worrying about length of comments, grammar, how you say things. If someone's going to harass you for something so petty, they're not going to be welcome around here. I want this to be a great community of people helping each other and talking to each other. What I used to love watching was the Cheers bar. And it's always been a background for what I've wanted. Everybody knows your name. People can argue and come back the next day and chat with the same people they were arguing with the other day. I've had great discussions because of that, because people know they're allowed to express themselves, and I will put a stop to somebody going too far, just reminding them we're adults. We can discuss ideas. We don't have to just attack each other. So give your own ideas in the comments. I would love to hear from you. I would love to know if this helped give you any kind of ideas, helped you in any way. I hope that you have a chance to brighten somebody's day. I hope that somebody else can brighten your day, if possible. I hope that it is a great day for you. And don't forget to share this too if you have found value in this and you think somebody else could. Or just to share them and go, look at this weirdo. She's on camera. Go laugh at her. That's fine. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, more to come.